And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition here of the Mass Steel Podcast. Where, of course, yours truly, Charles Prodigy Richey, as we are going live right now here on tonight's edition right here, getting ready to go across the league on the opening drive. And plus, it's a new era for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They officially got their man. It is none other than a longtime tenured Steeler front office employee, Omar Khan. He now goes up from director of business administration to now the new GM of the Pittsburgh Steelers, replacing Kevin Colbert after 22 seasons as GM, winning 2 out of 3 Super Bowls right now. And it's been a long time coming for him, to say the least. As many of you know, he's been interviewing for jobs before in the past, I believe, like with the Jets, the Texans, even the Bears, the Bills, in most recent memory. Never got hired yet, but here it is, man. His time has finally arrived, and he is now the new guy in charge here for the Pittsburgh Steelers as we are getting ready to open up shop for the 2022 season. And once again, we pay salute to Kevin Colbert. Once again, everybody, you guys can follow me on social media. You can definitely follow me on Twitter at Mass Steel CGR for the Mass Steel Podcast, and on Instagram at Mass Steel Nation. We got a lot of interesting hot button topics to get into. We're going to get to Omar Khan a little bit later on in the show, but let's go ahead and go right into it. Surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as their AFC North foes right now, as we look at it. And let's find out what happens here. The Cleveland Browns, for example, very interesting team, by the way, right now, is they got Deshaun Watson on their team, and who has definitely been lately with some controversy, to say the least. I mean, no doubt with his 22 accusations with the women in the spa that occurred about 2 years ago, which the accusations came out about last year in March. So far, for the time being, for right now, Deshaun Watson, he was not indicted on criminal charges back on March 11th by a grand jury, but he's still facing 22 civil lawsuits, many women of whom are alleging sexual misconduct and assault. So far, Deshaun Watson, as everybody knows, he has denied any wrongdoing. The NFL is currently investigating this further, whether or not that did Deshaun Watson violate its code of conduct policy. And he was interviewed last week, according to ESPN, by the way. And Roger Goodell, who spoke at the owners' meetings in Atlanta, he did indicate that they're nearing the end of their investigation, but couldn't give a timeline for when a ruling might be made. Here's Roger Goodell's quote. "I can't give you a timeline," as he told reporters, especially via Mary Kay Cabot of the Cleveland Plain Dealer. "We're nearing the end of the investigative period, and then it will be handled by our disciplinary officer." Now, remember, Deshaun Watson, by the way, as we look at, he did sign a record-breaking contract, to say the least, this year going into it. As we look at, I mean, Deshaun Watson, who was traded for from the Houston Texans, Browns sent multiple first-round picks, has a 5-year, $230 million contract with the Browns after trade for him. The contract is fully guaranteed, includes a $44.965 million sign bonus, and includes a no-trade clause through the entire contract. The exact salaries come via a report from Pro Football Talk. He is basically signed for the 2026 season right now, as we look at it. And boy, I gotta tell you though, definitely been some little controversy, especially by the women too, who've been looking at it. But I mean, when you look at like a total, like guaranteed, I mean, right now, I mean, for the most part, I mean, he is definitely a very wealthy man, to say the least. For the Browns, I mean, going into this year as we look at it, I mean, he's definitely a guy right here who we're not so sure if he's going to be facing the Steelers like early on in the season. or at one point can we expect them to lock up? Because remember, those Steelers do play the Browns for the last game of the season for Week 18. That time is still to be determined. Steelers, remember, their schedule. The first time they do play the Cleveland Browns will be in Week 4 in Cleveland, which would be a Thursday night game on Amazon Prime. Only question right now is Baker Mayfield. Will he still be quarterbacking by that time? Still be looming around. But the Cleveland Browns, like I said, is going to be at Heinz Field, 18th game. Not sure when the time will be set. But, I mean, other than that, I mean, you got some real interesting stuff going on right here. And like I said, I mean, he is the highest paid as far as terms of guaranteed money, especially amongst all quarterbacks in all position. The next one that comes close to him is Aaron Rodgers, who's got $101.415 million. Josh Allen, $100 million total guarantee. Dak Prescott at $95 million, and last but not least, in the top five, Matt Ryan of the newly Indianapolis Colts. He has got $94.5 million right there. The Browns definitely did pay a king's ransom for him as we look at it. And like I said, it's definitely going to be a real interesting time for right now. But like I said, I think you definitely got to be concerned right now what kind of standard the NFL is setting here for right now. And until they find out more of the facts. And two of the women who identify themselves, the names were Ashley Solis and Kyla Hayes. Solis, please forgive me if I'm pronouncing that last name correctly, but Ashley was the first woman to identify herself. She claimed that during a massage appointment at her home, Watson exposed himself and touched her hard with his erect private area before she ended the session and asked him to leave. At a press conference, Solis said that she suffers from panic attacks, anxiety, and depression resulting from the sexual assault. She stated, "People say that I'm doing this just for money. That is false. I come forward so that Deshaun Watson does not assault another woman," end quote, as we look at for right now. But like I said, forgive me, everybody. I just wanted to say we're going to be getting to Steelers talk in just a little bit. We're going to be doing that towards the end. I just wanted to kick off around the league. This definitely does relate to the Steelers right now. The biggest question is who's going to be they're going to be facing at quarterback when they go face the Browns at First Energy Stadium. I mean, for their third game of the season. Remember, they're going to be on the road. I mean, for like 2 out of the first 3 games in the month of September. They're only be having one home game that month. They're going to be on the road against Cincinnati to open things up in Paul Brown Stadium. The next one is going to be a home against the New England Patriots. That's going to be definitely a highly competitive type matchup, I would expect, especially with Bill Belichick. And then on Cleveland, Amazon Prime. I tell you what, this turned out to be a winnable game for the Steelers. I did predict that you'll probably see the Steelers start off 0-3, but that's going to have a lot to do with the quarterback rotation you got right here. And remember, I mean, Mason Rudolph, is coming into this camp right now, the OTAs right now. Still feel like he's done enough and has prepared himself to do enough to still be a starter. Mitch Trubisky doesn't seem to have no issue. If he's going to be the starting guy or not, or if he loses that competition. He pretty much is taking like a true trooper right now, being ready. He's not surprised, though, to come to expect with the territory where he was told or not that they're going to be drafting a quarterback. He seems to be gamed and ready to go and win this job, along with Kenny Pickett right now, who's going to be in the mix. I don't expect Kenny Pickett to be starting off the season, but maybe at some point during the season, maybe he sits a whole year, learns from watching where it's either Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky. I'm not sure if it's going to be Mason Rudolph or not, but we'll see. But it is kind of odd when you got that fourth quarterback in the mix and Chris Oladokun. I'm not sure how that's going to work. One of them, are they going to go to the practice squad? I think Oladokun would have to go to the practice squad at that point if you're going to keep Rudolph. The only thing is, can the Steelers still get like some sort of late round draft value for a guy like Mason Rudolph? Maybe like a sixth or a late seventh round pick. Get something for him. If they do decide to part ways with him, where do they do that? I mean, during the preseason or at the end when they make their cuts. I mean, do you just cut him and like not get anything back for him? So just a reminder, real quickly, the OTAs before we go any further to any league news right now. Remember, a rookie minicamp just happened on May 13th through the 15th. That was last week, and now this week you had the OTA offseason workouts, which pretty much are voluntary right now. You got May 24th for the 26th and the 31st through June 2nd coming up right now. Here we go for the most part, like what I could say. So, I mean, that began this past Tuesday, and here we are right now. So, this coming Tuesday, May 31st or June 2nd, will be the end of the off-season workouts. Mandatory minicamp begins on June 7th through the 9th. So, like I said, getting back to Deshaun Watson right now, actually goes on to continue to say, he just said, I know you have a career to protect, and I know you don't want anyone messing with it, just like I don't want anyone messing with me. To me, that's when that's when I got really scared. Kyla Hayes, who's the second woman who stepped forward in this accusation, who accused Watson of inappropriate sexual conduct, out of the contract sick. I feel like he's being rewarded for bad behavior, she told HBO. And Nike and Beats by Dre last year on April 7th, they suspended endorsement deals with Watson. And Watson's attorney did eventually come forward and say that some of Watson's messages led to sexual activity, but it was consensual. Now, I mean, Deshaun Watson is still maintaining his innocence, saying they denied any wrongdoing. But again, you got like a situation right here where he should have been tight-lipped on that. I mean, listen, I mean, just saying it was consensual right there, now things start to get a little bit murky in this point. So what do you think, Steeler Nation, right now, as we are starting live here on this show right now? What do you guys think? Do you think we'll see Deshaun Watson at all this year? Do you think we'll see him in the last game of the season? Yeah, you know what? I would not be surprised if they don't see him to the following year. I think Deshaun Watson, there's still possibly a chance he could play. But when you got what's coming out right now, until the smoke starts to settle here, we'll find out, I mean, what is actual factual, the concrete evidence here. I mean, for the most part, I mean, the biggest victory for Watson at this point, and no disrespect to any women out there or anyone who's watching this podcast, but I mean, for his sake, he did not get indicted on he did not get any criminal charges on here. He was not indicted on criminal charges on March 11th. So unfortunately for right now, we'll just have to wait and see. But anyway, I want your takes on this right now. I want to hear what you guys say. Feel free to let me know. Do you guys feel like we'll be seeing Deshaun Watson playing this year? Or do you think it's going to be in the next year? Did the Browns make a foolish move? Listen, until we find out at the end of the day what's going on, they rolled the dice, made a huge gamble. I still think, you know what, Deshaun Watson is still hard to turn down. Unfortunately, the image right there, that's going to probably tarnish his character a little bit going forward. It's definitely going to be hard to look down, to say the least, as we look at. But anyway, let's continue to move along here. Also, too, Colin Kaepernick completes workout with the Vegas Raiders. Am Schefter is reporting, a source says. Colin Kaepernick, who last played professional football back in 2016, the year he began the kneeling for the national anthem to protest racial injustice, he worked out yesterday for the Raiders, league source told ESPN. This was his first workout with a team since being exiled. It was the first time the former star quarterback visited with the team since he flew to Seattle to meet with the Seahawks in May 2017, before they passed on the opportunity to sign him. Kaepernick played at the University of Nevada in Reno, the only school to offer him a scholarship. And currently, the pro team in Nevada is the only one in the NFL that has given the civil rights activists another opportunity. Mark Davis is following on the spirit of his late father, Al Davis, as ESPN goes on to say. They gave him many more opportunities, such as hiring the NFL's first black head coach, Art Shell, and his first woman chief executive, Amy Trask, in the modern era. The elder Davis, who was the first team owner to draft a black quarterback, Eldridge Dickey, in the first round, and the second team owner to hire Hispanic head coach, who's now in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Tom Flores, right there. I mean, you look at the Raiders right here. This would make sense. The only thing is, right now, I mean, his attitude right now. Remember when we first heard Colin Kaepernick in the last few months. Remember the key things that he was saying at that point in time when he was like wanting to go back, work out for teams. I mean, he has no problem like trying out, trying to serve to make it on the roster, serve as a backup. But he also did say a few months ago too that if he feels like he's done enough to impress everybody and prove himself ready as a starter, he feels like he should be deemed a starter. But now it seems like right now he's still having that same element, the sentiment. The only thing is right now he just seems like he's comfortable with being a backup at this position. So that's the thing that's going to be big in question right here. I mean, Kaepernick, who's been out of the league for, like I said, I mean, for over 6 years now going on, when you take a look at everything, my only concern is right now, I mean, Colin Kaepernick, he was definitely done wrong. But at the same time, too, you also got to look at this right
Pittsburgh Steelers.
My only thing where I get a little weary with Kaepernick, you did win your lawsuit a few years ago for being blackballed. But then also, too, I mean, back in 2019, right before the pandemic happened, I think it was in November. It was like right around the same time period after the Steelers Browns Thursday night game. It was on a Saturday. They were supposed to be having a scheduled workout with scouts and executives supposed to be attending. And at the last moment, he decides to change locations. He switched up his workout there. He even had the former Browns head coach, Hugh Jackson, in attendance, getting ready to work with Kaepernick that day. My thing was just, you know what? I look at that moment in time, Kaepernick. I'm just like, I'm only thinking to myself here, it's like you had a golden opportunity to really take yourself seriously, to come back. But because, you know, like going for some stipulations you're hesitant about that could be taken away from you, I just feel like right there that just showed a lack of seriousness right there by switching up the last moment. Was that a way in Kaepernick's mind, the humble, to get back, get even with the NFL, his little F off moment back to them? That's what it seems like to me. But I mean, this time around, listen, I mean, when you look at a guy, I mean, like Colin Kaepernick, I mean, who came into the league right now, I mean, back in 2011, who became a starter during the 2012 season right now. He's going to be turning 35 in November right now. And is basically kind of like running out for him. I mean, at this point in time. And a lot of people would argue, I mean, he's got just as much as like a skill set like coming off the bench. But you also look at a guy like Doug Flutie, too. Remember, Doug Flutie almost, I mean, similar, kind of not really. I mean, he played in his first 4 seasons, I mean, in the NFL before he went over to Canadian Football League for about 8 seasons, beginning in 1990. And when he came back, he eventually was a starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills right there and did some miraculous things right there. So, I mean, it's still possible. I mean, he could possibly come back and like make this work. I mean, time is running out. I mean, for him, I mean, he has to like wise up a little bit. And good luck to him the rest of the way. We'll find out. But Kaepernick right now, uh, he's going to have an uphill battle going up against Derek Carr, starting quarterback for the Raiders. So how will the Raiders be able to utilize him? I mean, you also got a guy like Derek Carr right now. Let's take a look at his situation as he just led his teams to the playoffs. The Vegas Raiders lost in the first round to the Bengals in Cincinnati. He signed for another 3 more years for the 2025 season. He signed a 3-year extension with the Raiders with $65.2 million being guaranteed, of which $24.9 million is guaranteed at signing. And if he's not on the roster on the third day of the waiver period in 2023, his 2023 base salary, $7.5 million of his 2024 base salary will be guaranteed. The extension created $500,000 in cap space for the Raiders this coming season. That's the thing we got to pay attention to right here. I mean, he's already been signed. I mean, is this going to be another stop right now where he could be willing to be a backup, contribute in a different role? I mean, can they utilize him in special plays, or will he really make this an effort to win the starting job? I don't know. But anyway, let's go on to our next topic right here, too. Another topic that's been getting a lot of steam as of late, especially for the period of the last 2 years right now. Daniel Snyder right now. Dan Snyder, remember, I mean, this guy has been investigated by some people right now as far as like workplace misconduct. And then, of course, which includes sexual harassment of women, that now probably some financial improprieties right now as we look at it. And when we look at it with Daniel Snyder, it was reported earlier in the week, back on Saturday, that some owners are already getting themselves ready for votes to be gathered. If they were to force Daniel Snyder out of the NFL, force him out of the league of the Washington Commanders, it would need 24 votes to get rid of him. One executive said that they'd have to know a lot more than what they know now in response to the USA Today story that was written by Jared Bell on Saturday, May 23rd at 4:38 p.m. Eastern. The real issue is getting the votes. Getting the votes involves precedent and the bar the other owners want to set for taking our owners' team away. And the one thing I'd say we can all count on is that the bar will be set very high or low depending on your perspective for that. Stay tuned for the White Report, as contests probably dictate where this goes next. Because Capitol Hill, members got involved and basically accusing him of holding back money from visiting teams that played in Washington. And if that does prove to be true right there, that is a huge strike and indictment against Daniel Snyder right there. Withholding money from your own colleagues, your own partners right there. You do not want to be getting involved in that boat right there. And I think that'll just be very dangerous, very bad look, to say the least. And right now, because listen, I think, when you look at, the first significant thing, what they did, they finally changed the original Washington Redskins name and changed it to the Washington Football Team back in on the 4th of July weekend. Remember, that was one of the first steps they did. Then they had the investigation by Mary Jo White, who also did some investigating on this story right now. For the most part, she was hired back on February 18th of this year to invest the allegation that Daniel Snyder of appropriate workplace misconduct. That's the thing right here too. I mean, you gotta imagine. I mean, if Daniel Snyder is officially removed, how many more? I mean, like, what kind of like expectations saying next for other owners? Is there more stuff that's going on right here too? You also got John Gruden right now too, who's actually, I mean, having the judge right now basically denying the NFL to take to their own ruling, their own internal like ruling on the John Gruden, the leaked emails that forced him out of the league, no longer coaching the Bears, no longer in football, with all the racist comments he made while working as an employee at ESPN in 2011. I mean, that's one thing to pay attention on this too, because remember, I mean, John Gruden definitely feels wrong, no matter what you like about the guy. I mean, his claim is right now that they interfered on his business with the Raiders right now. And whether you like the guy or not, I still feel like Gruden has a leg to stand on as far as like being wronged in that regard. I mean, technically, I mean, just basically just like leaking out private emails, just be distract everything. So let's find out that. But anyway, the Pro Bowl right now. Let's get into that. Roger Goodell has said that in regards to the Pro Bowl, the game doesn't work. We need to find another way to celebrate the players. He did acknowledge the league is unhappy with the facsimile of football being played, that they want to celebrate the players another way somehow. Also, the league meetings in Atlanta, Roger Goodell said he isn't aware. I mean, like right now for the Pro Bowl, I mean, that's been an interesting topic going on too right now for quite some time, and it's been happening for a lot of years now. And I mean, one of the things too, I mean, it's like how they've been kind of like going away from Hawaii, I mean, where they've been having it, and now they've been having it like internally in the U.S. I mean, you just recently had it in Vegas, I believe. But still, I think the biggest thing too, when you look at a game like the NFL, I mean, how violent the game has become. But it's not only that. I mean, it's just not doing enough for the bottom line. It's not getting enough ratings, basically. And I'll be honest with you, listen, I think that's just, I really liked, I don't know about anyone else, but I expressed this online on social media, especially on a Facebook post. I do feel like right now the sickening thing about the NFL, I wish they would have never messed with the Pro Bowl to begin with. Back when they last had, when the Steelers won the Super Bowl back in 2009. Super Bowl 43. That was the last time they had the Pro Bowl a week after the Super Bowl was being played. I mean, for that, I mean, that right there, too, I felt, I mean, when you took a look at it, I just they did not like the fact that when we look at it, that it's just like, why do we have a baseball, NBA, NHL? I mean, are they going to do like more like a skills competition? And I think the NHL kind of does it a little bit right, where they have like their little 3-on-3 tournaments. I think that would be fine for the NFL. I mean, you do something like similar to what the NHL does. You don't have to necessarily have a full like required offensive, defensive players lined up, but you probably definitely do like maybe like I don't know, like a 3-on-3 or 5-on-5 type drill. I don't know. I mean, just quarterback, running back, receiver, some tacklers. I mean, we'll see, but to be honest with you, the Pro Bowl right now, I'd be sad if that goes away, to be honest with you. I know the game is hardly watchable these days, but it's just, I find a little head scratching that they'd actually be considering dropping that. I mean, this has been due for quite some time, to be honest with you. But at the same time, too, it almost seems like it doesn't make any sense to keep around, just like how they're doing right now. I mean, with the preseason, reducing it from 4 to 3 games. But I mean, the team who's got to play the Hall of Fame game, Still got to play the three games after that, like the Steelers did last year. So that's what we got right here for around the league. Now let's get into the juicy stuff right now. The new GM of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We long waited, and here we are. Here we go. Omar Khan officially gets announced as the eighth Steelers GM in team history. Brooke Parker mentioned that the Steelers are also strongly considering Sheldon White for a front office title under new GM Omar Khan, a source told her. Exactly which title has been determined, but White has a history with the Steelers. His son Cody is wide receiver, and Kevin Colbert hired him as a scout in Detroit. Omar Khan gained the opportunity to be the GM for the Steelers. I am ready for this challenge and grateful to continue the success we have had on the field during my first 22 years. I look forward to completing our football operations staff and working tirelessly to build another championship football team for Steeler Nation. And as we look at it too, I mean, he's going to be filling some big shoes right now. Kevin Colbert, who is definitely all-time winningest GM in the Steelers history, right behind him is Art Rooney Jr. He had 164 career wins, followed by Francis Fogarty, who was in the early 50s, 1951 and 1968, 93. Tom Donahoe, who was mainly there for Bill Cowher's tenure when he was coaching the team. One season with Chuck Noll, which was his last season, he had 89 career victories along with a Super Bowl appearance. I mean, Art Rooney Jr. too. He was also 4-0 in the Super Bowls in the Steel Curtain dynasty, so he was a huge part. Dick Haley too, who came in from 1987 to 1990. Now, granted, he was there earlier too. Dick Haley, as I think as a scout or whatever, in a different capacity, but he was definitely with the team for 30 seasons right there, and was also an architect of the 4 Super Bowls they won in the 70s. But technically, when he was a GM, which began in 1987, he has 32 career victories, followed by John Houlihan from 1945 1950, pretty much during the Great Depression right there. 31 career victories. Art Rooney, the chief, 23 career victories, followed by his son. Dan Rooney was 6. So Omar Khan right now, I mean, listen, I mean, look at this guy's resume. I mean, he's been hanging around for quite a long time, and I was definitely shocked to see him get the nod finally. But maybe not so really. But I mean, Omar Khan, I mean, he's definitely been around there. I mean, for like the last 22 years. He's been there back in 2001. I mean, when you look at everything. And Omar Khan, too, I mean, who's been doing a great job with all these contract deals, too. I mean, he's been in football admin, I mean, pretty much his whole tenure with the Steelers and everything with football operations. The past 6 years, beginning in 2016, he was promoted from director of football administration to vice president of football and business administration. But I mean, under his tenure, I mean, the Steelers as a whole, they had 243 career victories, 15 playoff appearances, 16 and 13 record in the postseason, which also included a 2-1 record in the Super Bowl. I mean, so Omar Khan, I mean, my only question is right now, too. I mean, you got to imagine, too. I mean, he's been groomed for this for a long time. I mean, he had to be thinking like he had to be training other Kevin Colbert. I think the biggest thing is, too, I mean, I don't think it was necessarily a knock on Omar Khan, by other teams. If he were to leave, like, why they didn't see him as GM, I don't think that was the case at all. Maybe it was just, Steelers kept reassuring him they got a special spot for him. It was just a matter of learning. And remember, Omar Khan, I think he's like 45 years old, too. So he's been around the block, I mean, for a long time. So, I mean, since his early 20s. But still, I mean, this guy has definitely been waiting for his opportunity. And Art Rooney II on Omar Khan, he said that Omar has been an integral part of our football operations department during their 21 years with the team. And that experience will serve him well in his new position. Sure. And they now the story was going into this week. They're expected to have it finished by Memorial Day weekend to have some sort of an announcement. But glad to see it finally get wrapped up. And my whole anticipation going into this, I did predict that they were going to go internally. I thought it was going to be Brandon Hunt, who was actually there as of late. Brandon Hunt, who actually came out to the Steelers back in 2016 as the pro scouting coordinator. But most of his time, I mean, he was working as a scout with the Houston Texans beginning in 2007. But he did begin back his first year, 2005, as an intern. So he does have a Super Bowl under his belt. I mean, working with that team. I'm just more interested to see like now all the training he's got over the years, working closely with Kevin Colbert. I mean, what to look for in a player, I would imagine, but still, I mean, you gotta figure this guy's gotta be a savant business wise. I mean, find a way to like save the team money, create salary cap space. But I mean, remember, Kevin Colbert too. He did say he wants to stay on and serve like some sort of role, like off to the side or do something similar to like what Bill Nunn did. I mean, there's still a very small chance of that happening. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this right now. What do you guys think? Do you think the Steelers made a mistake by sticking internally and not reaching out? But I'll tell you what, though, I would not be surprised. There's other people aside from the Pittsburgh media who's looking at this as probably like a mediocre move to be the least. I mean, because the thing is, too, I mean, a lot of people would think too that if you're going to have a new GM, I mean, I think they did acknowledge. I mean, they're willing to be open to new ideas. I think the only thing that's just hurt them as of late, like I said, the biggest thing that's been glooming. I mean, you're going on right now a 6-year playoff drought. I mean, you're looking to snap, and we'll find out. I mean, if they're able to do that or not. I mean, that's been one of the things that has killed them. I mean, they have been staying relevant. I mean, for all this time here. But I mean, as far as like being in it to win it, they've always checked those boxes. I just feel like the biggest concerns that get for me is like, when you look at the offseason, I mean, this is also going to still look at largely as far as Kevin Colbert's team since he's on the way out. I mean, this is his handprints on him. I mean, Omar Khan is still part of that process too. I mean, I'm sure he was in the room with them as far as draft day or learning everything behind the scenes. But I tell you what, I mean, this year, I think right now, when we look at it, I would not be surprised if this is going to be a trial year for Omar Khan. I mean, whether it's good or bad right there. And, we'll probably find out more so in the second season, like how he does with his team going forward and how his imprints are going to be seen on this. Also part of this deal too, we also heard from Sharia Williams, who writes for Pro Football Talk. She mentioned that Adam Schefter on ESPN reported at 9:59 p.m. Eastern that the Steelers, this was 2 days ago on Tuesday night, the Steelers will also be hiring Andy Weidel, who was reported to be earlier leaving the Eagles to join Omar's assistant GM. Now, this article that was written came about an hour after Brooke Pryor's tweet at 10 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday evening, when they're expecting to name Omar Khan as the new GM. And I gotta be honest right now, I like the way they're keeping things in house. I just hope right now, I mean, when it comes to terms like being fresh ideas, is this gonna be looked at as a team who's like still happy or comfortable with filling status quo, but while continue to build a culture? I gotta think down the line right now, since you got this new GM, what do you do when they get back into the playoffs? I mean, like, how you continue to equip this team down the road right now? For right now, Omar Khan, it was a really nice catbird seat too. When you also think of the fact too, they got four quarterbacks in the rotation, which sounds a little crazy right now. I'll expect that to get down to three by the time the regular season rolls around. Or maybe the plan is they'll have Chris Oladokun, like I said, on the practice squad. What kind of daring decisions does Omar Khan make over time? Working in this new position. Again, you guys can follow me on social media. Definitely follow me on Twitter at Men of Steel CGR and on Instagram at Men of Steel Nation for the most part right now. And let's also get into this right now. OTAs right now, too. Here we go. Like I said, as a recapper, I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, but I'll recap once again. OTA offseason workouts began officially on Tuesday of this week. They conclude today was the last day for this round. Next week, May 31st through June 2nd, is going to be the last of the workouts. And then June 7th through June 9th will be mandatory mini camp right there. That's going to be happening for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so far, we have still heard no sign of to it, though. Cam Hayward did mention that he was in touch with him. He did say he is confident that he does feel like he's going to be getting himself ready, get ready to come back right now. Who's been staying ready. Tua is definitely an interesting case right here, too. A guy who's just been in a whole nother world, as you could imagine, especially with the knee injury, but losing his brother first and foremost right now. At one point, it's saying the mandatory mini camp that opens up on June 7th or June 9th, he's not there. You got to imagine that's got to be a huge concern right there. That's mandatory mini camp right there. They make a decision by then where, what is it? Do we have to cut bait with him? Do they trust that he's going to show up at preseason? I don't know. Cam Hayward seems to feel like he'll be ready to go, but that definitely has. We'll see. Rafael Apollo tweeted that Cam Hayward is confident that he'll play for the Steelers, and that he has been putting in the work. And like I said, those are some big ifs right there too, as we look at. Also, too, one of the guys, Jeff Halford was on the Cook and Joe show today. Basically, as we looked at it. And he was definitely saying, Kendrick Green, TJ Watt was saying, in the OTAs, he definitely looked like he picked up in size a little bit. He looks a little bit different. Najee Harris, too, looks like he's bulking up a little bit. It looks like he still might be doing something to, get himself ready. But, man, I got to be honest with you. Those are some, real things right there, too. The shapes of those guys. And, of course, he's Claypool right now. How is he going to get ready to get himself coming back for this season as we look at it? I think for right now, the Steelers at this point, when we looked at everything too, with everything going around and power rankings right now, Peter King, he just released his power rankings right now this week for this round. I already covered everyone's from the last few weeks for everything going on, and the Steelers are around in the 20 range for most spots in the league. But here's Peter King's top 10 right now as we look at it. So he's got the Buffalo Bills number 1 right now, who's 12-7, lost in the divisional round, of course, to the Chiefs, followed by the Chargers, who just barely missed the playoffs. They pretty much screwed themselves out of that by not running out the clock and ending in a tie. Then he's got the Chiefs 3rd. So think about this. The Chargers ahead of the Chiefs. And he's saying one little advance for the Chargers. They got Jacksonville, Houston, Seattle, Atlanta in games 3, 4, 7, and 8. And he believes that'll translate to being near the top of the best division in football by Thanksgiving. He thought it was very vital on offense to continue to build around Justin Herbert. Wideout Mike Williams, a gamer Coach Brandon Staley loves for playing to exhaustion, got signed to a new deal before the receiver market exploded. They also drafted guard Zion Johnson, two cornerstones up front with 2021 top pick tackle Rashawn Slater to grow old with. So Herbert, I mean, he's not only getting better protection, he's got his top wide receiver right there. But then he's got the Rams Super Bowl champions at 4th right now. He's got Green Bay 5th, the Buccaneers 6th, Bengals 7, the Ravens 8, the Eagles 9, and the 49ers at 10. So 9 playoff teams in the top 10 right there, with the exception of the Chargers right there, who comes in at number 2. As far as the AFC North goes, the Bengals are 7th, like you just heard on that list, followed by the Ravens at 8th. The Browns are at 18th, surprisingly. And then he's got the Pittsburgh Steelers at 23rd. Here's what he had to say as far as on the Pittsburgh Steelers. If the coach was anyone but Mike Tomlin, I think it's the 2022 Steelers in the 5-12 range. They still might be in that neighborhood because for the first time since training camp of 2004, there's no Ben Roethlisberger, and there are some significant questions about whether Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett can be a good NFL passer. The offense should run through Najee Harris. His 307 carries as a rookie in 2021 could easily graduate to 330 in 2022. For the Steelers to be close to good, the defense will have to be better than 24th in the league in yards allowed. The talent is so good for that. A new core in there, Terrell also will be under pressure to make sure it's a better unit. I mean, that's saying a lot right there. I mean, without Mike Tomlin, he thinks they could be like a 5 team and probably very well close to that mark, even with everything. That's if the defense does not take a step back this season. I mean, that is definitely a real point right there too. And when you look at the Steelers, I mean, going into this year, yeah, they're 24th in the league as far as total defense. But then another thing that was concerning right there, was very alarming. Once again, for the first time since 2018, the takeaway department on defense, they've only created 13 interceptions, which was 2 notches below the final playoff spot. They're 16th. 13 interceptions and 9 fumble recoveries for 22 takeaways, which put them at that same ranking in there. We already know they could get after the quarterback. Maybe the sacks may slow out a little bit. Probably still in the 50 range. Maybe not near. Probably not be the number 1 seed this year. But a lot of it too. You also got to put into the factor too. Like right now. Let's speak about this too. The sacks that they have right there. Remember, 22.5 of those sacks by TJ Watt right there was out of the 55 sacks. So, you got to figure right now, TJ Watt, you got to believe he's trying to focus, stay a little bit more healthy, because if you take those away right there, you only got 32 and a half sacks that the Steelers did without him right there. So he's got to stay healthy. I would anticipate right there too. The groin injury he's been battling out, for this season. You got to get back to forcing takeaways. And more importantly too, that was a significant part, for the Steelers. That really hurt their chances last year, but thankfully they were able to get in the playoffs. Their run defense was dead last. They gave up the most yards on the ground, 2,483 yards right there. Now, you got to swing back in once again. Devin Bush right there. Is he going to finally be able to come around and get back, to make some tackles? Remember, they did not pick up the 50-yard option on there. There's a big question right there. Miles Jack, is he going to be the guy that helps, covers like a struggling Bush or yellow Tyson Alualu? We're not sure how he's going to be coming off his knee injury this season right there. So, I mean, you got some question marks right there. So it's not just the run defense. It's not just forcing takeaways, but also staying healthy, more particular with a guy like TJ Watt. So I tell you what, if you take TJ Watt out of those games, they're not making the playoffs last year. Let's be clear about that. We all know that. That is a give me right there. I mean, if you think about it. I mean, health wise, and when you look at their team's ratings right there too, and I'm surprised the Browns are as low as they are. I mean, 18th. Now, I mean, Grant, I mean, front office and the theatrics that go around, the drama around them, that's another story. I mean, especially when you got Deshaun Watson. But I'd still like to think they got to be a little bit better right now. I mean, you still got Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb. I mean, without Jarvis Landry right there. I mean, you still got some good studs right there. I mean, it's just only a matter right now. Can they compete with teams like the Bengals once again? That we'll find out right there. But I mean, like the Bengals right there, I mean, they kind of dropped down quite a bit. I mean, they're not nearly in the top five, but they're like seventh right there. Ravens are eighth. I think the Ravens got significantly better, if you ask me. The only question is right now, I mean, you took away Lamar Jackson's top receiver and Marquise Brown. I mean, so he's without a weapon. You got pretty much got Mark Andrews doing most of the lifting once again this year. Can he stay healthy? You know, he's very, very generous with the Baltimore Ravens right there. I'm going to spot them. So I want to hear what you guys think on that. Do you guys like the spot right there? Do you think they should bet a little bit higher? Maybe like in the 15 to 20 range. I probably said, you know what, for the Steelers right now going into the season, I'd probably put them at 18th, to be honest with you. I really do believe the defense is going to be better, just like how Mike Munchak was with the offensive line. I believe back it was in 2013. I got to believe that they'll be better in the run defense since he's going to be the linebackers coach. I mean, for this year, I mean, when you look at it, he's going to be the secret sauce for this team. Actually, 2014 is when Mike Chet come in. He was only there for 5 seasons. So with Brian Flores right there, yeah, I think the defense will be just fine. It's just going to be a matter right now. We'll wait and see how much did they miss a golden opportunity to get a top-notch level offensive tackle or guard in the draft, which I feel like they want. Rasheed Walker was waiting in the 7th round. It's drafted by the Green Bay Packers. Those are going to be some interesting things right there, how the offense does. Will these probably be the proper pieces that Canada could work with? We'll find out, and that's going to do it for this edition here of the Mass Steel Podcast. I want to say thank you for all those of you for joining me. Again, you guys can follow me on social media, on Twitter for the Mass Steel Podcast, at Mass Steel CGR, and on Instagram at Mass Steel Nation. As always, leave you. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Oh, before I get out of here, I should have said this in the beginning. Prayers for all the people and all the children's families and any shooting victims within the last 2 weeks in Buffalo, New York, and now in Texas the last 2 days. I just wanted to say this real quickly. With all like the people protesting, trying to see if our politicians get the gun laws enforced, but at the end of the day, listen. Whoever you're close to, take a moment to say, I love you. Okay? Do me that favor. I just, you know what? Tomorrow is not promised, but I just want to just say my deepest love, prayers, condolences, and sympathies to all the families and friends and victims who got murdered and severely wounded. And please, let's have a safe Memorial Day weekend. But while we remember everyone, keep everyone in your hearts and please continue to look out for one another. But like I said, as always, leave it. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. Here we go, serious. Here we go. Hang on. Thank you for watching the Mass Steel Podcast with your host, Charles Prodigy Richey, here on YouTube. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And for all the latest Mass Steel Podcast episodes, feel free to download them on Mixcloud, Anchor.fm, and SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts.